It is, of course, a day of history in the United States, the inauguration of President 47, as well as 45. But Donald Trump, he is back in the White House. He is officially president again. So our attention now turns to the next phase of the official proceedings, which will be the official parade, and it will be at Capitol One Arena, which is where Annelise Nielsen is. Annelise, hello again. How are things?
We're still waiting. So the original inauguration parade was supposed to start about an hour ago, but I think it's no surprise to anyone that the day is running very late. That's mostly because Donald Trump gave that second speech, and it was quite a speech. We know that Donald Trump does love to give a long speech, and he's obviously in a pretty good mood, having come back. And look, he's achieved one of the greatest comebacks in US history in this. He was written off, he was persecuted, he was prosecuted, and now he's back in the White House with a bigger majority than he had last time, more goodwill and support, and a better approval rating than he had before. Despite being a felon, he is the popular pick to be the President of the United States, and he's come back in making a number of policy announcements. Today, here in the Capitol One Arena, when he does arrive, he is expected to speak to the crowd. There's expected to be some kind of procession on the floor to mimic what would normally happen at the inauguration parade when the weather is better. Of course, this has all been brought inside because the weather is so cold, and there was that risk of high winds making it dangerous. So what we've heard when we've spoken to people who've come for the inauguration is they understand why it had to be brought inside. There's a lot of frustration among people about how difficult it is to get in. There's still huge lines, and there really just isn't enough security to process everyone coming in, and they're being very strict about security. So they are filling up throughout the day. There are still spare seats around the place, and we know there's still people outside trying to get in. We know crowd size was also a big discussion for Donald Trump for his first inauguration. It did seem this time that there was going to be a big crowd. 200,000 tickets have been booked. Keep in mind, these are free tickets, and a lot of people do buy them or book them and then not show up. Most of the really VIP ones are gifted through your congressman or woman or your senator, and so those ones tend to have a better rate of people actually showing up. But for the people who've showed up here, they are the die-hard Donald Trump supporters. They've been through all the thick and thin with Donald Trump. They never lost hope. And these ones who have come, there's not a lot of Johnny-come-latelys. A lot of these people are the ones who voted for him in 2016 and never gave up. What we've also seen today happen quietly in the background as Joe Biden left was a number of pardons. And I think this is really important to talk about because this is an extraordinary thing to do on your moments out, to say that you're going to enact these presidential pardons, which, for those not familiar, a presidential pardon is an executive power that allows them to either completely wipe off any conviction. They can also grant clemency and reduce a sentence, or they can commute a sentence and allow people to be released altogether. We're watching to see if Donald Trump releases any January 6 prisoners today or tomorrow, which is something he's signalled he would do in the past. But look at who Joe Biden's done pardons for today. We have his brother, James Biden, his sister, Sarah Jones, Anthony Fauci, his COVID czar, Mark Milley, not his COVID czar, Donald Trump's COVID czar, but then carried over into the Biden years. Mark Milley, the retired general who orchestrated the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and Liz Cheney, who was pivotal in the January 6th committee and then, of course, campaigned for Kamala Harris. Mark Milley in particular is a really interesting one on the way out. This was a laser focus of the Republicans coming back in. They wanted him fronting up to Congress and explaining the decision-making that went into this withdrawal. In particular, they're furious about the hardware that was left behind, the fact they lost Bagram, and the fact he told the White House, we won't see the scenes we saw in Saigon of those refugees running up to the roof and trying to get out of the country as everything fell apart in absolute scenes of chaos. That's exactly what we saw in Afghanistan, and there's been no great accounting for that within the Biden administration. The Republicans absolutely intend for there to be an accounting for that. But look at this. In the Pentagon today, at 12:46 p.m., according to the AP reporter who posted these photos, and a number of reporters have posted the same thing from inside the Pentagon, Mark Milley's portrait, which was only hung up on January 12th, has been removed. So it seems like the Trump effect is already coming in, and it is another signal of this broader discussion around the politicization of government departments. So when Joe Biden comes in and gives these pardons, it is an assumption, or at least an inclination, of guilt.
Yeah.
Because a person doesn't necessarily need a pardon unless they're going to be accused of something that they're likely or potentially going to be found guilty of. His argument is that they've done nothing wrong. So, how do you find someone guilty if they've done nothing wrong? It has to be a politicised process.
Yeah.
And that's the exact same kind of process that Donald Trump's been subjected to. So this is where it absolutely brings full circle what's been a really, really difficult few years for Donald Trump in particular with these legal cases. We're talking state level and federal. They can't do anything about state level. It doesn't mean that they can't be pursued at the state level. So where does that leave you? The Justice Department. So that's where this all comes back to. And this is why this is such a political bomb to drop for Joe Biden on his way out the door.
No, it is dodgy from the Democrats, and it's a long road back from there when it comes to transparency. And, you know, where does it go from here?